The producer of the SEGA Mini lineup of consoles had a recent interview after the launch of the Game Gear Micro and was asked about what console could be next, and the answer was very exciting. And we have to give credit where credit is due. Nintendo is improving the Nintendo Switch Online service in a quiet but impressive way. What's going on, guys? I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. So Sega and mini consoles seems to be a blooming industry for the company right now, which is a good thing because, well, let's be real, many people feel that Sega's best days are a bit behind them. The Sega Genesis Mini was a great piece of hardware in terms of design and titles on the system. Plus it featured things like hidden games and all the regions for the games on it. And I honestly would put it right alongside of the NES and the SNES Classic in terms of quality and enjoyment that I've gotten from them. Since then, Sega of Japan has announced two other mini systems, one of which recently released and one which is coming soon. The first is the Game Gear Micro, which has come out in Japan, and although I am a die-hard Sega fan, I have literally negative interest in this thing. There's like 4 of them with different colors, there's only 4 games on them each, and they're roughly priced at about $50 a pop, and they're just way too small to be anything beyond a bit of a novelty. Considering the lineup of Game Gear games to choose from, and really, by extension, Master System games, they could have chosen a lot more awesome games for this thing, and it's honestly just super disappointing that they went this route and really didn't honor the Game Gear and, by extension, the Master System. The final one was yet another Japan exclusive, the Sega Astro Mini Cab. Now this one I did pick up, it has not shipped yet, because it has the arcade version of Virtua Fighter on it, along with a bunch of other earlier Sega arcade titles in a lovely design that you can hook up to your TV as well, so I'm definitely all in on this. However though, let's be real, these last 2 systems have been very niche. They're cool for sure, but they only released in Japan, and really worldwide people want things like, oh, I don't know, the Sega Saturn or the Dreamcast to get a mini treatment. But is a Sega Dreamcast Mini actually in development though? In a recent interview with Famitsu magazine in Japan, Sega's mini chief and designer Yosuke Akinari was asked about what we could see potentially being the next mini console from Sega, and he said the following. I think for the next one, we may go with a concept close to the Mega Drive Mini, which of course is the Genesis Mini in North America. If I have to say some names, it could be an SG-1000 Mini or a Dreamcast Mini. He then went on to say the Game Gear Micro is only sold domestically in Japan. If we do the next one, I feel the project scope will be bigger as we gaze upon the world, so we won't be able to release it as this time next year or 2 years after the Mega Drive Mini. We can't make it that quickly. Now let's be realistic here, people. Sega's not making an SG-1000 Mini. Like, the SG-1000 Mini, a lot of people don't even know what this is. It was Sega's first actual console. It released only in Japan before the Master System, and it's a pretty primitive system in terms of the games that were available on it. It only sold about 160,000 units in its lifetime as well. So obviously, you wouldn't put a lot of time and effort into something that, well, even the most hardcore Sega fan probably wouldn't be super interested in. So that brings us to the other name that's mentioned, the Sega Dreamcast. Now, while personally I would love a Sega Saturn Mini first, I get it, emulation is still a tad bit tricky on that, whereas Dreamcast emulation is really leaps and bounds more advanced and runs on a lot of different things with, well, really little to no effort. Of course, the Sega Dreamcast had a stellar lineup of games from first-party and third-party companies. Games like Sonic Adventure, Jet Grind Radio, Power Stone, Soul Calibur, and so many more awesome games. And really, a lot of these games still hold up very well today. Could they even possibly incorporate some online play into the Sega Dreamcast Mini, considering that the Dreamcast was the first home console to come out with a modem port built into the system for online play, and honestly, it was a very big deal and it worked pretty well. The possibilities are truly endless for this, and based on what is being said, it looks like it will become a reality sooner rather than later. Now the real question is, what games would you like to see on a Sega Dreamcast Mini? Should I make a video talking about the games that I want to see on a Dreamcast Mini? Let me know in the comments section down below, and by giving this video lots of likes, so if there's enough interest, I'll go ahead and do that. And finally, the Nintendo Switch Online service has been, well, I guess acceptable to say the least. It's okay, it does function, but when the paywall was introduced for the service, a lot of people, well, kind of turned a crooked eye towards it. Yes, it's cheaper than the competition, but it also lacks the basic functions that were available on the original Xbox in terms of things like communication. And really, you're just paying for things like NES and SNES games online, along with cloud save functionality, along with, of course, the ability to actually play these games online. But you know what? I think Switch Online has been getting better, especially lately, and we have to give credit where credit is due, because I think Nintendo is actually starting to focus and really put a lot of time and effort into the Nintendo Switch Online service, and we're going to start seeing the fruits of this labor. First off, we have to get started with the SNES and NES games that are added to the online service, which is now happening more regularly, which is a good thing. Obviously, the standout titles as of late have been the Donkey Kong Country games finally arriving on Nintendo Switch Online, but honestly, there's been some good supplemental titles as well. This is one of the Nintendo Switch's Online's biggest strengths, the immersive back catalog of games that they can tap into, and offer customers the ability to play these games with modern features like save states and basic but acceptable online play. I think going into this holiday season, we will see more titles added as well, and there's a lot of rumblings about a new console being added, such as a Game Boy or a Game Boy Advance, that we'll be seeing before the end of 2020. Personally, I feel like a Game Boy Advance is more than likely the thing that we'll see because, well, you can always add in original Game Boy games under that part of the service as well. And with the Nintendo Switch Online service just passing the 2-year anniversary, many are hopeful that this system will be added, and we've actually seen some groundwork laid down for this to happen as well. I made a video on it a few weeks ago on the channel. Make sure you guys go check that out. Of course, something else I want to touch on is Super Mario Bros. 35 as well, along with Tetris 99. Free games are good, free exclusive games are good, and both of these games managed to capture a big audience, with Super Mario Bros. 35 being one of the most addictive titles I've ever played. It's an absolute time sink playing it. It's a very simple concept, but it works out so well, and it's actually included in your Nintendo Switch Online service. Now, of course, there are some drawbacks to it, such as the limited availability until March of 2021, which I really feel like Nintendo needs to extend, and some people are a bit miffed that the only way to play a game like Super Mario Bros. 35 is to have the Nintendo Switch's online service, but to me, this is smart. You want to give people incentive to sign up for the service since they're having to pay money. You want them to get a value for signing up for the service because it costs money, and things like this actually add value to the service. And finally, two things Nintendo has been doing as of late that I think really show a sense of awareness are free game trials or demos. Now, Nintendo has of course dipped their toes into offering free game trials for 7 days, where you can essentially play the full version of a game and then pick up the digital version at a discounted price, with games like Mario Tennis Aces being one of the games in order to increase sales of it. But lately, we've actually seen a shift to third-party titles on the Nintendo Switch as well, and because of that, we're getting games in a more rapid-fire succession. Disgaea 5 got a free week-long trial at the end of September, where you could download and play the entire game and then purchase it at a discounted price. And now Overwatch is getting the same treatment roughly 2 weeks after the Disgaea 5 trial ended. Now, I've actually never played Overwatch, I just played Paladins because it was a free game to play, but offering the game for a free week trial to check out is definitely a nice incentive for Nintendo Switch Online members to see if it's a game that they would want, and it's a game that I'm actually going to check out now. Hell, Nintendo even just released a Pikmin 3 Deluxe demo for the Nintendo Switch to check out, which, let's be real, Nintendo hardly ever does demos for first-party titles because they just sort of expect them to sell well. Is it as good as something like Games with Gold or free PSN games that you get with those online services? I mean, no, of course not. But you know what? Considering how far behind Nintendo has been in terms of things like traditional online stuff, I think this is a massive step in the right direction. And over the past few months, hell, even the past few weeks, they have been very indicative to me that Nintendo is starting to finally take the online stuff a bit more serious. And hopefully we will continue to see this because doing things like this really increase the value of the Nintendo Switch Online service. Online gaming is very popular. Let's make it a more popular thing on the Nintendo Switch. But please, for the love of God, add in some messaging stuff. It's 2020, we can handle it. Put in some basic messaging. Alright, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to let me know what you think of everything in the comments section down below. Will Sega make a Sega Dreamcast Mini? I'm pretty sure they are going to after this interview, but what games would you like to see on the system? And finally, do you sort of see things my way? Is Nintendo finally starting to take the Nintendo Switch Online service a bit more serious? Do you see more advancements coming to it like I do? Because really, I think Nintendo is going to make a strong push for this because it's one way to really invigorate the Nintendo Switch and make it a great value for people who maybe be on the fence about it right now. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel as well. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.